Good morning. It's nice to have you with us today. And I'm Camille Jessen. I'm a docent at the Historical Museum in Mount Holly. And I'd like to share the room that we treasure in our museum. It's our church room. So I think we'll start over at this board sign. This is a sign that if you were interested in finding out about where your church originated from, this might be a tool that you would use or could use to determine where your church originated from. It's a sign that tells about the early Christian church. The very earliest Christian church was the Roman Catholic Church, and we are so fortunate to have the St. Benedictine Monastery out at Belmont Abbey, and we also have a small Catholic church, St. Joseph's, which is up off of Main Street. It no longer is used except for very special occasions. But our churches have developed from the Catholic Church. Then we went into the Protestant movement with Martin Luther and the Lutheran Church. And then all the branches, the Methodists, the Mennonites, the Presbyterians have all come from those particular branches of worship. Now I'd like to show you one of the oldest artifacts in our museum, especially in our church room, and that is our pump organ. This is a pump organ, and it gets its name because there are pedals at the bottom of the organ that you must pump. If I press the keys, no sound comes out. But if I pump the organ, I will get sound. And when we have our school children visiting with us on school tours, we let the children come over and pump the organ and make sounds, and they really enjoy that. I'll ask them, what do you think this is? And of course they call it a piano because that's what they're most familiar with. But a pump organ, or a reed organ as it sometimes is called, back in those days, pianos were much more expensive than this organ. This organ cost the Lutheran Church $86, and that was quite a bit of money back in those days. But small churches could not afford a piano, so they went to the pump organ to help provide their music. This one was given to the museum by the L.R. Underwood family. They were members of the Lutheran Church, which the Lutheran Church, being the oldest church in Mount Holly, it's still in use, and it's across the street from our museum, and you can go into it. It's a beautiful sanctuary, but they have a pipe organ in there now. Above our pump organ, we have an oil lamp. I don't know how old this oil lamp was, but back in those days before electricity, of course, if they needed light, that this would be a way that they received light, and the person who was playing the organ could have the light on through the oil lamp. We have several hymnals that came from different churches in Mount Holly. This is a Baptist hymnal. This one here, I'm not sure about that one. These two books came from the Lutheran Church. They're hymnals of different eras. This is a Free Will Baptist hymnal, and this is a Methodist hymnal. All these hymnals have beautiful hymns in it that those denominations enjoy singing. And some of them even have worship services in them. I know these two. And it gives them guidance as how to lead their worship service on a Sunday morning. So we're thrilled to have those. Let me show you about some of the stained glass windows that we have here. In the Lutheran Church, there are 3 main stained glass windows, and they are still in the church today. They're beautiful. The church building itself was built in 1903. But in 1916, they remodeled a little bit and they put these beautiful stained glass windows in. Some people call them art windows. Some of them call them memorial windows because most of them are given by families to memorialize a loved one. The one in the middle is the Good Shepherd window. And in 1916, the church became officially the Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd. It's the stained glass window that faces Main Street, and if you look at it from Main Street, that is the window that you see. The window on the right is called the Garden of Gethsemane, and that window shows Jesus kneeling in a garden. It was called Gethsemane, and it's where he went to pray before his crucifixion. And if you remember the story, his disciples fell asleep. They couldn't stay awake while he was praying. The window on the left, it shows a picture of Jesus knocking at the door, and that window is called the light of the world. Jesus is knocking on our door, and we need to open the door to let him come in. So that's what that represents. Those are beautiful windows, and if you ever have a chance to enter that church, take note of those. Now we have some replicas also of other stained glass windows in our churches from Mount Holly. This is a picture of a stained glass window from the First Presbyterian Church. And then over here are two stained glass windows from the First Presbyterian Church. And you may note there are names and dates, and those were given by those particular families to adorn the church, First Presbyterian. We have a stained glass window from Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, and our Second Baptist Church has a stained glass window. That's that one there. It looks like a Christmas window. Has the manger. And then Tuckasegee Baptist has also a beautiful stained glass windows. I think the colors in that are especially pretty. These over here, there are three that came in the early Methodist Church. And I believe the top one shows the Garden of Gethsemane, like the one we saw at the Lutheran Church. The Good Shepherd, just like the one or similar to the one at the Good Shepherd. And then the last one is Jesus calling the children to come to him. Those are awfully pretty windows. The window over here is a replica of the First Methodist stained glass windows today. They built a new church, and I'll tell you a little more about that later, but their windows are very pastel if you go in to the Methodist church, and very calming, I think, but they're beautiful too. This one came, it looks like a Lenten cross with the victory crown from the Macedonia Baptist Church. So our stained glass windows are an important part of our church history. You know, the church in Mount Holly was a wonderful place, as it still is. It was a place for the people in the community to go and worship, but it also was a place for them to gather for social gatherings, and that they did plenty of. Let me show you behind John here is a replica of an altar. We have two churches in Mount Holly that I know have altars, and that would be the Lutheran Church and St. Joseph's Catholic Church, which is on Main Street North. And I'll tell you a little bit about our altar. If you go into a church with an altar, you usually will find candlesticks, and light is a very important part of the Christian church. We have a crucifix cross with a figure on it, and I know that represents the Christ. And we have a Bible, of course, that tells the story of the Christian church. A chalice, which is important as they distribute communion to their congregants. And this is a stole. Call it a stole. It sort of gives the importance of the minister or the priest in the church. They're the ones who lead the worship services, and this is just an identification for them to wear. Not all churches have stoles for their pastors or their ministers, but many of them do. Those that do usually are more what we call liturgical churches. Those are churches that follow a church year calendar. Okay, let's see. Let me show you a little bit about some of the history in this room. If you're interested in your church, perhaps the First Baptist Church, you could come in here, and we have notebooks with the history of many of our churches. Some of them are our churches on Main Street, some of them are the churches in the outlying area. But we're blessed with the churches sharing their history with us. This is a Catawba Heights Baptist Church history book that they wrote. And let's see, this one is Centerview Baptist Church, which is a church not too far outside the city limits of Mount Holly. We have some pretty colored pictures, just all kinds of information about churches that the churches. This was a picture of the First Baptist Church. I believe it was about 7 years ago that they had a terrible fire, but they are now back in their church. And this is information about the First Baptist Church, how it was developed and where it is today. This is a little record of the First Methodist Church. The First Methodist Church used to be on the corner of Catawba Avenue and Main Street, but they sold that church and that piece of property and moved down across the railroad track to its present location, but it's still on Main Street. And it's the one that had those pastel windows in it that I thought are awfully pretty. But this is a nice record, and this is valuable to us because it's history written down. That's important. Let me show you some of the early church buildings in Mount Holly. And we have a wall there in black and white because early days our pictures were all black and white. This very top one is the oldest church in Mount Holly, still in operation, Good Shepherd Lutheran. And if you will notice, it does not have its stained glass windows in it. It was built in 1903. The windows were added in 1916. And they have built additions to that church. They have a beautiful educational parish life building that was built in 1988 that is a beautiful rendition. I think the architects kept the lines of the church intact, and it just adds a lot to our Main Street. Let's see, this is a picture of the First Baptist Church. It was on Main Street also. Let's see, This is Catawba Heights Baptist Church. It looks totally different today because it's a new building, a different building. These two churches came from our Presbyterian friends, and they were built on Main Street also. And then Tuckasegee Baptist is a church that's alive and well today, and this is a picture of their church. This church here, St. Andrew's Episcopal Church, is now Woodlawn Funeral Home. But we had an Episcopal church for many, many years, and Father Hindle was the rector there. Okay, let's see. Let's walk over to our map. This is a map of the streets in Mount Holly, and when we were putting our information together, we had collected 61 churches in Mount Holly and the surrounding areas. And so we wanted to identify their locations, and we have listed them with a number, and then on our map it has a corresponding yellow dot that represents where that church with that number is located in Mount Holly. So this is very helpful if you're doing research in the area. Have I missed anything? One thing I know I failed to show that I think is important too. Over in this corner, we have several plates. And a lot of churches, especially long ago, they like to have a commemorative plate made on special occasions. It might be the 50th birthday of that church or the 100th birthday of that church, and they wanted to preserve that date. And they would have plates made and either sell them to the community people that would be interested or members of their church. And I don't know that they do that anymore, I'm not sure, but these are three that we have. This is Wesleyan Methodist, and this is the First Baptist Church, and then this is First Methodist. And this picture is a picture of the First Methodist Church in the background, and it was on the corner, as I said earlier, on Catawba and Main Street, and these people were the men in their Sunday school. Look how many young people they had in their Sunday school, and that's a men's Sunday school class. I think that, or a men's Bible class, excuse me. I think that's astounding. Churches are still important today. We're having, churches are having some problems today. People are not entering them, but they're there. So when we need a church, we are well blessed with many churches in Mount Holly. Thank you.